I told you what a motor unit was before. I want to talk a little bit about them more now. So remember, a motor unit is a single nerve fiber, a single neuron, and all of the muscle fibers that it innervates. So all of the muscle fibers that it talks to. So when a single motor neuron fires, it is going to connect to a certain number of muscle fibers or cells. So for example, the purple neuron is going to stimulate everything shown here in purple. When it fires, the purple stuff contracts. So we already knew that. Let's look at what this means for generation of muscle force in different muscles. So the important thing about motor units is you can stimulate 1, 2, 3, and that's going to dictate how much force is generated. Different muscles have different amounts of motor units and different innervation to those motor units as well. So it has a lot of implications. So what I want to do is go back to a myogram, the generation of tension over time. And this is another diagram showing motor units. Here, in this case, there are 3 different motor units. Motor unit 1 is red, so I'll actually start with that one. And then motor unit 2 is in blue, and 3 is in kind of purplish. And you can see each motor unit innervates, you know, between, 4, 5 muscle fibers. So when we first start an activity, our bodies kind of like to be conserve energy and be smart about what we're doing, and only the motor units that are needed are going to be recruited. So what happens is the first motor unit, let's say it's red, is going to start to generate force. This is tension over time due to motor unit 1 being stimulated. More than one nerve fiber in this case. Then what's going to happen is these muscle fibers are starting to fatigue. There's a whole section on your book on fatigue that you're welcome to read, obviously related to ATP generation and the type of respiration that muscles carry out. But it's going to happen, right? You know that your muscles fatigue. So as this starts to go down, before it even does, motor unit 2 is going to step in here and contract and relax. Meanwhile, motor unit 3, it's also around. It's going to do the same thing. And if we only had these 3 motor units, they would actually go on a rotating basis. So the hope would be at this exercise intensity, motor unit 1 is ready to go again. It's had a break. ATP production is able to kick back in again. And we can have this rotating recruitment of motor units. So what this looks like overall for muscle tension, if we were to draw tension in this, right, this entire muscle as a organ, it's going to look something like this. So if you were to measure at the tendon, for example, it would look kind of like this. What does this mean? This means the muscle's working pretty well. We have a fairly constant generation of tension, despite the fact that different motor units are contributing to this. So this rotating through the motor units is very efficient for our bodies. We also could then potentially recruit multiple at one time if needed. Like if you're doing weightlifting, you're going to recruit, maybe add these together, recruit all your motor units at once, opposed to the rotating. So it does depend on the type of exercise you're doing. Pretty darn cool, if you ask me. I know you didn't, but you still have to listen to me. So let's see. A learning check here related to different muscle types, different muscles in your body. I want you to think about, why are the muscles of the leg able to generate more force than the muscles of the eye? And along with that, could you think about what the trade-off is for that force? Okay, so maybe you're able to think of this. In the leg, you have many, many, many muscle fibers, and they're all controlled by a single motor neuron. So it's a large motor unit is what that means. That muscle, actually, I think I don't need to draw that. I think I've got a picture coming up here. There we go. I do. So in the muscles of the leg, there are large motor units. That means that a single motor neuron is going to connect to, synapse with many, many muscle fibers. When this nerve fiber is stimulated, there is a huge generation of force. You can't really not have that because the motor units are big. You would still have multiple motor units, but for every single motor unit that is stimulated, you have a lot of nerve fibers contracting. In the eye, there is more precise control. So there are fewer muscles overall, and each one is innervated more specifically. So one motor neuron is only contacting maybe 2 muscle fibers. So when this motor unit is stimulated, not as much force is generated. You also have more precision over movement, right? So this is going to be increased force, and this is going to be increased precision. And so you may be able to predict some other parts of your body, right, that have differences in force generation versus precision. Facial muscles, hands versus like your back, those big muscles that their job is to just produce force. Okay, one more image here. What this is showing is a similar idea here. This is showing the stimulus to the nerve up here. So up until threshold, nothing's happening. No motor, I guess that one's the first threshold, yep. No nerve fibers are firing, no muscle tension is being produced because we haven't reached threshold. So first of all, we need to reach threshold. Once we have threshold, we have different levels of stimuli here that are going to result in more nerve fibers excited. Remember, each nerve fiber, it's all or none. It's an action potential or it's not. So it's not the size of the action potential, but the size of the stimulus can change how many nerve fibers are firing. Here we've reached maximum, and that's going to relate to how many motor units are firing, are responding. So this one right here would be 1 motor unit. And this over here, once we get to this one, what is that? 7 motor units. Each motor unit may contact, I don't know how many nerve fibers in this case, but it's going to be more when it's 7 motor units versus 1 motor unit. And again, this stimulus voltage is what's stimulating the nerve fiber, not, this is not an action potential in the nerve itself. This is what's causing either 1 or more nerve fiber in a nerve to be stimulated. Okay, so what I hope we've done here is interpret a myogram of tension versus stimulus intensity and explain the basis for recruitment. That's what's happening on that graph of those rotating through the different motor units. They recruit each other.